Guten Tag, Fräulein. We're back talking the middle episodes of Season 4 on...
Babylon.
Berlin.
Babble.
Babylon, Berlin.
Babylon, Berlin.
Babylon, Berlin, Babble.
Babble, 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 Babble,
Babylon, Berlin.
Babble.
Jawohl!
Welcome back to Babylon, Berlin, Babble, the show, possibly the only show in the world that does deep dives into Babylon, Berlin. This time we're talking about Season 4, the middle episodes, episode 5 through 8, here on Babylon, Berlin, Babble. And joining me, as always, is someone who, like Nyssen, has stopped caring about his mother's welfare. It's Double M Matt Murdoch. How you doing?
I am great, Bubba. Not only have I let go of caring about anybody's welfare, I've let go of caring about this podcast. But I'm still here, unlike someone else.
That's true.
Who shall remain nameless.
Listeners, you can tell that our third member, the only member with German descent, has been too busy this summer on holidays and work. And so he's not going to be joining us on this episode, but that's fine. That means we can actually get into the discussion of the episode and less discussions on how, as someone of German descent, this just depresses him. So we're going to be talking about Season 4, Episode 5. Matt and I were still going to have our classic segments, including bringing back a good one, Good German, Bad German. We're going to have our Nyssen of the week, our sweet Scheisse moment. Matt's going to break down the incredible music on this show. And we're going to have a new segment this week entitled, What the Hell is Going On? Because this show is so complex, so crazy. You got to keep track of all the storylines. And on Season 4, it's every area of Berlin. Literally every street has a different story that we're covering. So let's get to our ratings right up at the top. Double M Matt Murdoch, what do you give these 4 episodes of Season 4?
Well, I really enjoyed these 4 middle episodes, actually, Bubba. I thought that they were very good. So I'm going to go to 8.5 out of 10, what I like to call double Fs.
Wait, double Fs?
Frozen Fräuleins. And I am, of course, referring to Binky, because anytime somebody starts to propose some kind of love question towards her, she freezes up real fast. Good for her. Stay independent, Binky. I love that. I'll try to be short, or Rasa dich Kurz, since Catfish isn't here to tell us the proper German pronunciation. But I really like chaos, and there's a whole lot of chaos in these 4 episodes.
It
just goes all over the place, and hence your new segment that we're going to be doing. And suddenly that just popped up out of nowhere. And I thought that the ending for episode 5 with Rudi and the choir singing and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
That was so like soprano-esque, so Wire-esque. I just loved the way that was done. That was just pure art, even though it really upset me, of course, because
R.I.P. Rudi.
R.I.P. Rudi, who is usually the worst. Well, he was the worst last week, wasn't he? Wasn't he the Voss?
In our last podcast, we voted Rudi.
Yeah.
Relatively innocent Rudi as the worst. And now he made it one more episode after that tough vote.
And there were a lot of really cool music things. Endlich, which is on the official soundtrack, was the ending credits music for episode 6. Guess what that translates to, Bubba?
No,
it translates to finally, because we got the Rath Charlotte thing. Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So I thought that was perfect, and I just loved the way that thing bounced. It was so great. And episode 8 was also full of great music.
Yes.
With brilliant performance at the Shabbos, and just all kind. The yodeling was fantastic. Everything about that was great. So 8.5 out of 10 for me, Bubba.
Well, Double M, you know what? I'm going to steal your rating. 8.5 out of 10 sounds pretty good. Now, I am going to have to double you a bit here, and I'm going to give it 8.5 quadruple Fs out of 10.
I could only come up with 2. What, 4 Fs, Bubba?
That's right. That stands for full-figured fatherland females. There with the king of yodeling, there were some very full-figured women giving it their all, literally showing their all. 8.5 out of 10. Matt, I am with you that there is so much going on. There is so much chaos. That is the exact right word. And each episode, it felt like would begin very poorly. Like I turned on episode 5 after we did the podcast, and I'm watching the 5th episode, and it's pretty much Goldstein kidnapping Helga and, of course, Mother Nyssen. And it was so kind of lifeless. I watched the first half of the episode 5 and I thought, oh my God, is this what they're doing? This is how it's going. But by the end of episode 5 with R.I.P. Rudy, I was suddenly back in. And every episode, for whatever reason, started to me kind of rough. It was like, this isn't the best way to do this. But oh my goodness, every storyline would suddenly pull me back in with a twist. The fact that Catfish, our third co-host, who has such a problem with, of course, Rath's brother, Anno Schmidt, Dr. Schmidt. And then suddenly the twist of, hey, you help me, I'll help you kill Anno Schmidt. Holy smokes, that was incredible. Now, I love to talk about how this show is just so different. It's so fascinating. I think that's why people love it so much. The first 2 seasons with the train car storyline, it was a noir. It was a Dashiell Hammett, all these storylines, over twisty, complicated noir storyline. The 3rd season had a running storyline of a slasher movie in it. This 4th season, to me, is HBO's show, The Wire. There's not one overriding storyline, but it's like these 14 individual storylines are crashing into each other in unique and unexpected ways. It may not be as great as The Wire, which to me is one of the top 3 television shows of all time. But this show, the way it's attacking it is very Wire-esque, and it is fascinating. Finally, 8.5. Why? Well, any show which has Mother Nyssen hitting a dude with a flute, hey, I've got to give that a high rating. You know what I mean? When she takes out a flute and she cracks it with it, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm with this. Incredible.
Yeah, not only is she a maestro, but she's a master with that puppy.
Matt, you are, as we all know from your musical segments, you're a musician. Have you ever hit anybody with a recorder, with a flute, with any musical instrument like Mother Nyssen did here?
My instruments that I usually play on stage are much too heavy to swing at anybody.
Okay.
But back in the day when I used to play saxophone.
Oh, okay.
That's how I actually went to college, was on a saxophone scholarship. I wasn't above throwing that thing across the room when I couldn't play John Coltrane.
Oh, man. Here we go. Here we go. You Mother Nyssen needed you protecting her with the sax. Listeners, what did you think of this middle section? I'll speak for myself. I haven't dove in and watched the next couple episodes, which are available here in the United States on the streaming service, MHZ Megahertz Choice, MHZ Choice. But I can't wait. You know, once again, I'd love to see it all come together, but it just doesn't feel like it's going to happen. Instead, it feels like it's going to be exploding in all directions. That's the way I think.
I agree, Bubba. I feel like it's almost impossible to tie all of these things together in one particular way. So I think we're just going to have these next episodes just be a kind of a whole bunch of mini endings to each of the storylines is what it feels like it's going to be.
I think so too. Listeners, once again, reach out to us. If you're watching this on YouTube, do us a solid. Give us a like, hit the like button, subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything to hit a like or subscribe, and go down and leave a comment. We are building a community of Babylon Berlin fans here, and you can reach out to us if you're not listening to this on YouTube, but if you're listening on audio podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, hey, you can reach out to us on social media at PHQ. That's the word double, the single letter P for podcast, HQ for headquarters, at PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, everywhere you want to go. We want to hear from you.
You know, Bubba, one thing that people can do while they're at the YouTube also is to hit that notifications bell, because you guys do so many great podcasts. You've got more Only Murders in the Building coming up. You've got The Acolyte. You've got, of course, House of the Dragon, which you are covering with the Joffrey podcast. So
it never ends.
It just never ends. And the only way that you can know when a new video drops for sure is to hit that subscribe button. And even if you're on the audio normally, if you know that a new video is dropped, that usually means that a new audio is dropped as well.
Matt, such a logical. Getting rid of Catfish has made this podcast perhaps too logical. We're going to have to invite him back for the finale, maybe.
Yeah.
And we'd have to invite him back because this next section he would love. It's a new section called What the Hell is Going On?
Reminds me a lot of the Double C.
Double C?
Catfish questions.
It sure, oh boy, he's still here in spirit if that double C makes any sense. So back when we started covering Babylon Berlin, I used to tell people, you ever watch the Netflix show Dark, that German show Dark, and how it's confusing? Babylon Berlin is almost as confusing. So we've got this new segment called What the Hell is Going On? just to talk through what is going on. Why? Because at the beginning of episode 6, we're at a women's prison labor camp suddenly. We have spent 5 hours watching this show. We've never been to a women's prison labor camp before. We're following Toni with the child kind of prison camp, but this is a woman's labor working camp. And we see a woman escape from the prison. And you might be thinking to yourself, what is going on? Why are we following this? Well, here, Babylon Berlin fans, if you've been watching over multiple years, here's where you have to go back in the Wayback Machine, back to season 1. Back in season 1, there was a character named Dr. Volker. This woman, she was a minor character in season 1, but she's been on Babylon Berlin since season 1. What was she doing? Well, if you were a character that was poor and didn't have much money, like Charlotte Ritter's family, remember, didn't have much money, you would go to the cheapest doctor, the kind of the free doctor, the one that would, help you because you didn't have money to see a real doctor. And that was this woman, Dr. Volker. Not only was she a doctor there in season 1, she was also a communist leader. So if you remember back in season 1, there were those fake evil Nazis, or they were real Nazis, but they had fake names Fritz and Otto, and they went to a communist rally. That communist rally was led by this woman, Dr. Volker. And later on, in the May Day riots, the police started firing on the communists. Dr. Volker was begging Rath, hey, tell the truth, that it was the cops who fired on us, not that we fired on the cops and they fired back. Well, if you remember the end of season 1, Rath, who has been our hero, who did so many wonderful things in season 1 and season 2.
He disappointed us?
It's actually at the end of season 2, I'm sorry, where he sees a chance to grow in the Berlin Police Department and really make a difference as long as he kind of sells out his morals in this one case. So Rath goes to the hearing and says, no, the communists were firing on the police, and that's why the police fired back. It was a really bad move for Rath, really terrible move for Dr. Volker. So she ended up going to prison because of this. Dr. Volker is in season 3 in prison when we had Greta there, who was in prison for the assassination of policeman Benda. So she was there in season 3. Now, suddenly, she's in season 4, and she's back, and now she's getting out, and holy smokes, can you believe it? She wants to kill Scarface Wendt. Matt, what is going on? Can you follow this storyline? Can anybody follow these storylines?
This is a great case of a character that you think you can just kind of ignore that suddenly becomes important. I love it. I'm here for this. And I think it's so funny how you were making the comparison about, Dark and how we were always wondering what the heck was going on. Yeah. Well, this actress was in that show as well. She was a key figure in that show. So it makes perfect sense that she would be part of this storyline that suddenly blossoms up after being underground for so long.
Yes, not only was she on the German show Dark, which is a great show, which we've podcasted here before at Double P Podcast, she's also in real life married to the Armenian, the actor who plays the Armenian here on Babylon Berlin. In real life, she's his wife. And how about this, Matt? I think you could tell from the first podcast on this season, you knew the Armenian wasn't dead. Matt, how did you know it? How did you know that he lived?
I didn't know that he lived. I thought that Bruno Walter was coming back, but he did not. The Armenian surprised me. I loved the appearance of the Armenian back. And I still don't quite understand how he survived that explosion. But he does look like he's a little messed up. So maybe he dove out a window or something at the last second or what have you. But he's definitely got some damage to him. But what a great surprise for people that weren't expecting that. I was kind of expecting that someone was coming back from the dead. I wasn't quite as shocked. But man, that was a great entrance. Rath coming in looking for Rat. What was the Rat guy's name? I can't remember.
Curses. Yeah, we'll remember in a second. That Mobster. Oh, he's so good. Oh, yeah, so good.
He was looking for clues there, and the Armenian's in that little cubby hole underneath, just standing there waiting, and then comes out. Fantastically staged, although a little bit over dramatic, but still just perfect for television. Loved it.
Matt, let me ask you something. The Armenian, for 3 seasons, he was living. He was great. In season 4, he's lost his beard. That beautiful beard. Is this considered living when you lose that great beard you've had on all the earlier seasons of the show?
He's just a dead man who wants peace, Bubba. I mean, sometimes you gotta sacrifice things. Maybe this fire has kept his beard from being able to grow back.
No. How could you, Walter Weintraub? How could you?
Yes.
That's terrible. Okay, so listeners, how do you feel? Have you been able to understand all these storylines? We just did this segment on Dr. Volker. If you have a different question about the show that you want answered, don't hesitate to, once again, on YouTube, just go down in the comments or hit us on social media at PHQ. Matt, it's time to play one of our classic, and this is in game we're pulling back from way back in the first season we were podcasting about Babylon Berlin. It's Good German, Bad German. So I'm going to name a character on the show. You're going to have to tell me if that character is a good German or a bad German.
Okay.
And let's go to, we'll go first with someone everybody knows. He's also been there since season 1. It's the journalist reporter Katelbach. He has been informing the German public of Germany's wrongdoings in building up their military after World War I. So is that good or is he bad because he's a tattletale? What do you say, Matt? Katelbach, good German, bad German?
Bubba, not only is he a bad German, he is a traitor. He is publishing state secrets. Not only that, but he is also bringing into his web of evil a bunch of people who would otherwise just be sitting on the side. People like Rath, people like Benke, people like Lottie, people like Lytton. Mm-hmm. All of these people are having to now save his butt by committing more treason. And so I say that he's definitely a bad German. What do you say, Bubba?
Well, Matt, that is right in every way except the correct way. So it's wrong. I'm saying he is a good German. Why? Miss Elizabeth, as you pointed out, Benke, she lost her husband in the First World War. You know, that's over a decade ago. She had a one-night fling with Rath, but otherwise, how is she going to have any happiness in her life? A man like Katelbach stepped up and gave her, let's be honest, a boarder with benefits. He's bordering at her apartment. She's getting rent and love. That is two good things that every German gives. I'm giving Katelbach good German.
Now, hang on a second, because we've seen him ask Benke to marry him. Yeah. And she's froze up. She's hesitant. She doesn't know what to do about this. Do you think that makes he's a good German if Benke is hesitant to just say yes right on the bat?
Well, she's also a good German because she doesn't want to, marry a convict, somebody with a record. And so they're both good in their own ways.
Okay. All right. Well, what about this one? Let me ask you this one.
Oh, let's hear it. Sure.
You have Dr. Volker, who we just talked about a minute ago, just has beliefs that kind of reflect what she was doing. She was helping people with great need that didn't have a lot of money as a doctor and what have you. Mm-hmm. And that seems to go along with kind of the communist cause, especially at the time. And all she was doing was expressing herself politically, yet she was imprisoned. And despite the fact that she wants to just kill some guy, I mean, let's ignore that. I think that you could probably say that she's a good German. Yes or no?
No, Matt, this is so fascinating you say this. She is trying to set up an assassination attempt of Scarface Wendt. Scarface Wendt, the person who's behind the Benda murder. Yet, why is Dr. Volker a bad German? You got to remember, Wendt is not a Nazi. He's just somebody trying to use the Nazis for his evil purposes. So if Dr. Volker was a good German, she would be killing Nazis, not Nazi in all but name. So therefore, bad Dr. Volker. Breaking out of prison. Come on, let Lytton get you out, which you know he never will.
Lytton doesn't know how to get anybody out of prison, evidently.
No, the poor guy. This real life person, he's flailing. Even though, we're tough on Lytton. Actually, if you remember, he did get them to stay Greta's execution. It's just that Scarface Wendt had made sure it went ahead even without the judge's order. Oh, how tough.
True.
All right. How about this character? This is I believe a season 4 only character, I believe. But, let me go back and watch the other seasons. I bet he's there too. It's Judge. He's a judge and a doctor We think of him really, though, as a judge. It's Ferdinand Voss. So Judge Voss, what do we know about him? Well, he's the leader of the White Hand, who's literally created his own justice system in killing people regardless of trials. When he's a judge in an actual jury case, he throws out stuff and just does what he thinks is right. So he's the leader of the White Hand. Yet, in some ways, you would say he's good at keeping criminals off the streets. Also, he's also preventing prisons from being overcrowded. So what are you going to say about Judge Voss and the evil leader of the White Hand? What do you think, Matt? Good German, bad German?
Definitely a good German.
Wait, Bubba. What?
Here's why. Keeps himself clean by wearing gloves all of the time.
Glove service.
It's the most efficient I've ever seen any justice system be. Delivers verdicts in 2 minutes or less.
Judge Doom, yeah.
He also, I don't know what that game is called that they were playing out there in the courtyard, but he's a very good shot at that. It seems like it's a very German game and therefore good German.
Bad German. Germany gets very cold. Why are you playing shuffleboard? To hell with you. To hell with you, Judge Voss. Bad German is my rating. Listeners, as we go through these, we always say participate. Tell us if these characters are good Germans, bad Germans. All right, who you got next from me, Matt?
Well, let's look at Arndt Scheer.
Who?
Well, I think he's called Arndt Scheer. I'm not sure. Yeah, what I'm referring to is the redheaded Hitler Youth who lied to the police about Toni. He's got a crush on Moritz, which has got to be a positive.
He does. Have a crush
tries to get some blackmail dirt on Wendt, and for that matter, kind of succeeds.
He does.
I think he's just trying to do good for the SA cause and maybe a little for himself.
So he's a good German, this little
Well,
kid?
I'm just saying I'm presenting both sides.
Okay.
You tell me what I should think, Bubba.
I think Arndt Scheer, this kid, I have a hard time saying Arndt Scheer, this little boy who has the crush on Moritz, who's in the Hitler Youth. I'm going to say he's a bad German. Why? Not because he's having gay sex with Wendt in the park, in the broad daylight even. Well, I'm going to say he's a bad German. Why? Because he didn't wait for Moritz's consent. Both times he's tried to kiss Moritz, he didn't get consent. And so if you don't get consent, then you pretty much have got to stay out of the park, is all I'll say. You got to keep your tongue out of Moritz's mouth, and you got to stay out of the park. So, I have no problem if he and Wendt want to have their consensual stuff, but maybe not in my public park. That is driving down my property values. Go rent a room. What you do in your own house is fine, Arndt Scheer. And you may not have a house because you're still a minor living at home. But either way, Arndt Scheer, bad German. That says I. What about you?
Well, Bubba, you couldn't be more correct because I believe that Germans, for the most part, and I don't mean to generalize, but I do believe that Germans, for the most part, are kind of anti-PDA. And so to have all of this public displays of affection that Scheer does towards Moritz and towards Wendt, then I suppose that's not being a very good German.
No. We've just had 1 million people unsubscribe. But first, let's go to Cop, and I hope I'm going to pronounce this dirty cop's name, Cop Kuschke. He is the dirty cop who, in the early episodes, killed Toni's male friend, Benny. He killed Benny. He was stealing from the department store and blaming it on Toni and Moritz and all the kids. He killed Benny, stepped on his hands when the kid's hanging on for dear life and the poor boy falls to his death. So is he a bad German or is he good German because you got to respect the blue? What do you got, Matt? What do you say for Cop Kuschke?
Definitely a good German. He's cleaning up the streets from all of these riffraff that are running around, robbing jewelry stores.
Oh, come on.
And he's acting on his own. The other four guys will tell you it was all his idea. It was him. They told him to stop. There was so much blood. They told him to stop. They all said the same thing, which obviously means that it must be true. So good German doing his job, keeping the streets safe for all of the rest of the Germans. What do you say, Bubba?
I'm going to say he's a bad German, Matt, because he obviously doesn't stand out enough. They were blaming all the blood on the dead cop. This is the cop who's still alive, Cop Kuschke. He's one of the cops who just in episode 8 dragged what's the doctor's name again? Dr. Velmout, who had helped kill Rudi, he dragged him out and put him in the back of the truck. So Cap Kuschke for being alive and not even allowing Matt to remember you're alive. Bad German.
Wow. Yeah. Bad Matt right there. Bad. So how about this one? Oh, boy. Fuchs? Is that the guy's name?
F-U-X-E is what the closed caption in IMDb says. This is Walter Weintraub's right-hand man.
Yeah,
so he's a mobster. He's the right-hand man to Walter Weintraub. But is he? Because he seems to be selling Walter Weintraub out to rival mobster Iron Else. What do you think, Matt? Bucks?
Good German, just trying to make a living on the side. He's not going to get the 50-50 split unless he helps Iron Elsa do her thing.
That's true.
He's not just doing that for him.
No.
He's doing it for his fellow guy who has the goods and everything.
Yeah.
That, to me, exhibits the German spirit of helping your fellow man out quite a bit. And, Iron Elsa, here's a woman who's in a man's world. She's just trying to struggle. So by helping her with a leg up on all of this, then he's helping the cause on that side as well. Remember, these women just got the right to vote about a decade before in the United States. And so he's doing his bit to help all women and his brother. I say good German. What do you say to you, Bubba?
I'm saying bad German. If you're trying to kill somebody in a car explosion, how do you mess that up so that the chauffeur dies? Terrible work, Fuchs. That's terrible, terrible. I'm also going to go to Iron. I'm going to go to Iron Else too. Yes, she is a woman succeeding in a male-dominated mobster profession. But if you fail at your job, you had one job, kill Walter Weintraub. You failed. She's a bad German too. That's 2 for 2 for me.
Oh, Iron Elsa is a good German. She's an example of the power that women can have and wield successfully. She wasn't going to have to do that. She just wanted to do that. And so whether Walter lives or Walter dies doesn't really matter to her, just as long as he knows that something is going on, that he's got a target on his back. She sent the right message by just killing that poor driver, that poor bodyguard, and didn't manage to hurt anybody of big importance. So I say, good German, get the message across without actually hurting anyone of note.
All right, listeners, we're going to give one more for you. And this is, to be honest, maybe the star of these 4 episodes in the middle of Babylon Berlin season 4, the King of Yodel. So this guy, let's be honest, he is an incredible, wonderful yodeler. In Esther's talent show here, her, craziness, she brings out the King of Yodel. He is a wonderful yodeler, but he won't even stop yodeling during a Nazi brawl. So what do you say, Matt? You'll get the final word. King of Yodel, good German, bad German.
If it's one thing that I know about Germans, it's that they have excellent stamina. This guy was able to keep going.
Oh, my God.
Even during a brawl, just kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going, kept going, just like I am now. And therefore, I say good German because, man, that's a heck of a tune, too. I just, I wanted to get up and start doing some dancing as he was singing. And I didn't care that anybody was fighting. It's just a bunch of SA guys. Who cares? Let me hear the yodeling. That's what
Who cares, Matt? This is a Nazi brawl. And that won't stop him from yodeling. He is the best German. He's not a good German. He's the best German. Replace Angela Merkel. I'm saying that he is great. He is a King of Yodel, 10 out of 10. Once again, the fact that Catfish has been busy this summer and he's missing out on the King of Yodel scene, which is all him. It's 100%. That is heartbreaking for our third podcast host.
Yes.
Listeners, is there anybody else you want us to break down if they're a good German or a bad German? Write to us and let us know. Okay, Matt, let's dive into these episodes. And we always talk about the 14 storylines that are going on. But I think we need to get to the one that you said is on the soundtrack as finally Charlotte and Rath have gotten back together. This is something the show wants us to want as listeners. This is something that the show has led us to believe these two are made for each other. And what's odd is we've had this push and pull, will they, won't they? It's kind of been won't they for 3.5 seasons. And now it's not even will they, won't they. It feels like we have several episodes of them as a strong, good couple. What do you think of Rath and Charlotte finally getting together?
Well, one thing that I don't understand is it's like they kiss, and then he's been undercover for 10 months. this show starts, or this season starts at New Year's of 1930 or 1931?
31. So the previous season,
Okay.
season 3, ended
So
in
what did they
1929.
do that whole year after they kissed?
Yes,
then?
they just pined for each other, I guess. Maybe
know that she was-
Charlotte
Yeah.
after Greta's death, maybe just wasn't in the mood, to jump into a relationship.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the season, they were going to go to the dance together, right? They were going to go do
Right.
stuff, and I.
So it's more like finally we just see it. I get a feeling that I don't know. They kind of come across like it's the first time for them too, this season. So I am against anybody being with Charlotte, but that's just me. That's my own personal thing.
Leave her
I think
single
Charlotte
so
will
we
be
can have a
just
chance.
Charlotte should be a binky and just freeze up anytime a man approaches her. But she's living the Weimar life, so she can do what she wants. I'm not gonna down her for that. This Rath guy, there's been times when I've liked him. There's been times when I've gone, why? There's been times when I've thought, is he really a hero? And I was so hoping that he would be exposed as a real SA guy at the beginning of the season and we could just be done with him. Yeah. But unfortunately, he's undercover and he's doing the heroic thing. So I guess I gotta like this relationship despite that.
I have been in a lot of relationships. I've had succeed, fail, but I don't know if I've ever started a relationship where my almost son, Moritz, has just been arrested for murder and her younger sister is on the run for murder. Yet nothing says passion like the world's going to hell. Let's jump into bed. Rath, I'll give him the one thing I guess I can relate to. His fridge is as poorly stocked as mine is. He needs a woman to get some food in there. And they were getting busy, Matt, to the song of the season. Ein Tag wie Gold. Do. Is that a good sexy song, Should George Michael or should Taylor Swift have had an up-tempo version for some make-out time to Ein Tag with Gold?
I don't know, that Endlich song at the end of episode 6, that was pretty appropriate to me. It's frantic song, and that was just exactly what was happening on top of that stove. So I feel like that we can leave the George Michael stuff. I might actually start to care about them as a couple if I heard the George Michael stuff,
Well, it's not just that both of them have family situations that are really stressed at this moment. They're both getting busy and so mooning each other in love that it takes them several days to realize Rudi, who was going to be giving them important information on the case, Rudi didn't show up. They were so busy making love that Rudi's death didn't get discovered for days.
Yeah, there was a line in there or something like, they're getting ready to take Moritz so that he can do his confession and everything. And Charlotte says something, we asked Rudi why he didn't show up. The most important part of them working on this thing she's got all those case files behind her and everything. Oh yeah, by the way, I guess we should ask where the heck happened to Rudi. And then of course the doctor gives him a weird story like, he goes out and parties, which is true. I mean,
and somebody said he was out of town. Like, get your story straight if you're trying to do a cover up of a murder.
Well, it was the same guy. It was that same doctor.
Yeah, it was Dr. Schwarz. Dr. Schwarz. And
maybe he's a bad German.
Yeah, he's an incompetent German, and he's being dragged off at the end of episode 8 to be there in the same prison Tony's at. So we talk about all these storylines, and here we do see them going together. This Precinct 14, which is filled with evil people, they seem to be working with Judge Voss, who's evil. Toni has now been captured, even though she's under assumed identity, so nobody knows it's her. She's at Judge Voss's Judge Voss's wife runs a prison to abuse young kids, and probably gets a lot of money to take in the kids and then kills them so it can keep the money. Judge Voss is the leader of the White Hand. This is just horrific. This is terrible. And what's probably sad for everybody is that the person still in charge of the investigation truly is Bob. It's not Rath. Bob, who of course has taken, who's stolen evidence too, just like the cops, because he's so broke. Ridiculous. The best cop is no longer a cop. Charlotte was always in the previous seasons the best cop ever. She's the one looking through the files. She's the one who got Judge Voss's files and puts the connections that, hey, it's these officers from Station 14, Precinct 14 who are involved in all these cases. She's the one doing it. And now, of course, she's going into the belly of the beast, Matt. She is on the back of the car where that Officer Krupke. No, sorry, that's Officer Krupke. That's from that's Officer Cop.
Great. That's such a great scene of her hopping onto the back of that car. It's like watching the old Batman television shows. I just love it. It was comical in a way. You do feel, of course, scared for Charlotte because who knows what she's going into. But this whole business with Charlotte, she is the best cop. She's still the best cop.
Still.
And she's great with negotiations. Like that guy with the files, he says 15 minutes. She says 20. He says 25. I mean, she's got him hypnotized to the point where he's going to give her 45 minutes.
She is so cute and so precious. Yes, I would say take an hour. Walk out with the files, which, let's be honest, she kind of does. Incredible. But once again, she's going into the belly of the beast. And this, the White Hand, they're just straight up killing prisoners that they found guilty who may not be guilty. This is the worst thing ever. We need the good cops, and we know they're good cops. We know there's Tweedledee, Tweedledum, as we like to call Rath's partner, Henning and Cherwinski. We know there's Graf, even though this whole season Graf barely appears. I think he was probably shooting he was shooting that Oscar-nominated film at the time. That's why he isn't in this much. But we have the Buddha Ganat. We need the good cops to come in and save us because they're in deep, deep trouble. And Rath has got too many storylines going on. He's doing this. He's helping out. He's in the Mobster storyline. He's going to help out Miss Elizabeth and Katelbach. I mean, Rath is spread thin. Rath needs Charlotte to break this for him. This is crazy.
This one, maybe this will be Charlotte's big hero moment for the season, is her taking on the White Hand all on her own. Although I don't know how she'll do it. We'll see.
If anybody could, I trust her. I mean, she survived drowning. She survived, living with Jackie. She survived sleeping with Rudi.
Well, maybe just like negotiating with this guy as she did with the files, maybe she'll just say, okay, everybody just lie face down on the floor, put your hands behind your back and wait for the cops to get here. And they'll all oblige. Maybe that'll happen.
Let's hope. Okay, so Rath, I mentioned he's involved in too much. We kind of stepped away from it a bit, but Rath is still undercover in the SA. Now, the SA, for us Americans who don't know all this German history too well, the SA, the thing Rath is undercover in, it's a paramilitary organization whose methods are pretty much, we're going to violently intimidate people to where they just do what we say. Then Hitler, of course, also had the SS, which is his personal bodyguard unit. So the SS is Hitler's bodyguard unit. This is the SA that Rath is undercover in. And they knew that the only way to get Stennes, the real-life leader of the SA in Berlin at this time, the only way to get him out of prison after what he did on New Year's Eve, causing all that destruction of Jewish property, was to get dirt on Wendt, get Scarface Wendt, get him taken care of. And so it finally happens. They get Wendt in a compromised photo from Graf. Wendt realizes his only opportunity in this society is he can't come out and say, hey, I'm gay, or based on his relationship that he's bi, you would assume based on some of his relationships. So he just lets Stennes out. Stennes, who the Nazi party was happy to be rid of because he caused so much trouble, they have put lapdogs in place of the SA. Stennes comes out. It is a huge brawl there at the Mocha FD during Esther's Cabaret of the Nameless.
Good on Stennes for taking back his power, Bubba. I mean, these are the kinds of things that you have to. This is what real leaders do. They take the situation into hand, under control, and they establish a good, firm agenda for an organization in order to be able to make that organization successful.
You know what? No? We could have had a great Matt, I have to cut you off. We could have had a great good German, bad German. Wait, Stennes is punching Nazis. He's a good German. Oh, wait, he's a Nazi himself, bad German. So Nazis punching Nazis, you want them both to be punched and injured.
Well, to mention the boxing storyline, that would just be a split decision, right?
There you go. Speaking of the boxing storyline, we got the mobsters and the big, we've already spoiled the lead on this. You know who? Our man, the Armenian, is back. So now Fuchs, he is, like we've already pointed out, he's pulled in Iron Else. They are coming for Walter Weintraub. They are coming for everything. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Guess what? The Armenian is alive. And the Armenian says that he was in a car that was set up to be blown up at a warehouse. This is it. You said Rath is there investigating the mob war. He sees these rats in cages. That is so good. It was Rat Robert was the name of the mobster.
There
who was
it is.
up.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. And the non-bearded Armenian gives Rath what you would call, this isn't Sophie's choice. What's a good choice for this? It's like, help me end this mob war, and then I'll help you kill the person who's torturing you, Dr. Schmidt.
Yeah. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Let's get this over with.
What a twist. What insane. That element of the twist is insane. And do you think the Armenian is being honest about this? The Armenian, if we understand his backstory, he had PTSD in World War I. Dr. Anno Schmidt helped him with that. And he was listening to Dr. Anno Schmidt all those earlier seasons when he wanted to kill Rath, and he said, no, I can't kill Rath.
Well,
Is this a fake? What do you think's going on here, Matt?
I think that his situation is similar to Rath's. Initially, Anno was helping Rath out to get over his own issues. But now Anno has somewhat perverted that into his own kind of agenda. Perhaps the Armenian was experiencing things like this. It just so happened that that explosion saved him, allowed him to get out from under all of that.
Yeah, well, that's a good call.
And so maybe, he sees exactly what Dr. Schmidt is just as much as Rath does now and is willing to do so. I never trust a guy, especially an Armenian, without a beard, though, also. So it's a toss-up for me, Bubba. I don't know if we should trust it that he'll do that or not.
Rath is really, we've already seen Charlotte kicked out of the police force. How is Rath gonna stay in the police force when he meets with the chief of police and Buddha Ganat's there too, the Buddha Ganat, I should say. And the Buddha is against it. He's the wise one. He's like, wait, you want to bring all the mobsters here and have them talk out their differences? We should be arresting all of them. This is crazy. We should be arresting them for this mobster violence, which is turning our streets unsafe. But the chief of police sees as a way to, hey, maybe this is, the chief of police just cares about the headlines. He doesn't care about the crime. There are all these headlines that are saying Berlin's in a mob war, it's not safe. He wants to end the headlines. So he says, okay, Rath, let's arrange a meeting of all the mob bosses here at the police station. And the Buddha, his jowls are shaking. He is not happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think the Buddha, and this is weird because the Buddha is the same person who says, a crime victim, who Charlotte even quoted, a crime doesn't matter how poor or rich a crime victim is. But it sounds to me like the Buddha wants to just say, yeah, let's have the meeting and then just never let them go.
That's smart. They're mobsters.
It's smart, but it also think of the war that will happen in the power vacuum. I think that actually, if you see the bigger picture, it's a better idea to let the guys that are in place that are willing to not pull all of this stuff off. If they negotiate something, it's better to let them stay in place than to get rid of them and all of their underlings start the war all over again and maybe make it even bigger. I think it's a good play on Rath's part. Although a guy who wants to be in the room when his own brother is killed, I'm not exactly sure that I like that very much either.
Now, Matt, in episode 8, to me, it felt like there was somebody, he looks like a custodian at the police station, but he ain't a custodian. He's a mobster or something. He was doing something, it looked like in Baum's office. And so, trouble.
Poor Baum, who can't even get to a laundromat anymore. He just has to wash his clothes at the station.
Yep.
He's just having a hard time about it all. I do have one question about going back to Dr. Schmidt, though.
Okay, yeah, let's hear it.
That thing of Rath fighting that guy.
The big guy.
That was a dream, right? That was just him dreaming while he was with Charlotte in bed?
I hope that's what it was. Or are all these scenes, we saw, what was it? The mongoose, I call it the ferret that killed the wolf. Rath is this little guy. Theoretically, he beat up this big guy. This is the drugs that are going into Rath. If this is not just a dream, terrible. I also want to say, we do a lot of silly things here on this podcast. Now, the mobster Red Hugo, was he killed by 1,000,000 nails nailed into him with those betting tickets on him?
Yeah, they just I don't know how he was exactly killed, but that was definitely done to the corpse at some point, or to the live body, where they just nailed all those nails in. And what's even worse is, then I suppose it's Weintraub's people. Is it Weintraub's people that put him in the box, and then they take all of the slips out and everything, because you don't want that kind of evidence in your body, and then put all the rats in, and that's what leads. Or was it the Armenian that did that? I'm not sure.
Oh, well, hold on. It had to be in Weintraub, because the whoever killed Red Hugo put him in Weintraub's gym and then had the police come. They were going to set Weintraub up. Then Weintraub's two men, his driver who died in the explosion, and Fuchs, picked Red Hugo up and ran him out. So would you rather die by having 50 nails put into your body while you were living? Or would you rather be hung like Rat Robert, which is or blown up like the chauffeur? What's the best way to go?
Well, I'll tell you what, the chauffeur probably would have, if he'd had just done his thing and let Walter drive, he probably would have spared Esther a lot of pain, because she's lost the Mocha FD now. What is she going to do? This artist now has no place to perform her art, or to allow others to perform her art, because Walter sold it out from underneath her. Poor Esther. She doesn't deserve this.
No, she doesn't. Okay, you know what? I feel like what's interesting is we always heard that this season 4 of the TV show, is going to be based on the 3rd book, which is entitled Goldstein, which is about this mobster, Abraham Goldstein. In the show, he tells people, no, call me Abe Gold. Is he like Americanizing his name, maybe? Where he comes back because he wants his family's diamond, the blue Rothschild. And as I said at the beginning of episode 5, he kidnaps Helga rather easily. Like, Nyssen didn't have any bodyguards after he's getting these threats. This is insane. And sure enough, later on, Mother Nyssen are both kidnapped and hidden in this barge. And Nyssen, once again, we keep mentioning our 3rd co-host. I would have loved to have seen his scene with Dr. Anno Schmidt, where he's like, you know what? You've got to free yourself from this. And so suddenly Nyssen, he doesn't care that his wife and his mother have been taken kidnapped. Nyssen, are you crazy? He is crazy.
That is the most relieved I've ever seen Nyssen look, I'll tell you. But you know what? Bad on Helga. How does she look down on the people so much that she doesn't even recognize that that's not her usual driver?
Good point. Maybe they're so rich that they have 12 drivers and she couldn't keep track of them all. I mean, Nyssen did hit it pretty good.
You got to pay attention to the little people, Helga. And at least Mama Nyssen fought back with the fleet.
She did. Heck yeah. Now,
she understood.
Speaking of fighting back, I love people being active. I don't love people beating up other people. But when it's Judge Voss's crew and they're playing that game that I jokingly call shuffleboard, that's not it. But they are really just anti-Semitic jerks. Yeah. And they're being very, very mean to Abe Gold's uncle, telling him, you can't dine at this coffee shop, get out of here. And in Judge Voss, I'm going to name some of the things they said to this Grun, I believe is the uncle's name. They said, stop polluting the fresh air. My students are explaining the etiquette of this country to the Jew. You hear this stuff, and I wanted Abe to go further. I mean, he plays whack-a-mole on these a-holes' faces. When he pulled out the gun, I was like, just put us out of our misery. I mean, oh my God.
Save Charlotte a ride. But I tell you what, I'm really conflicted about Abe Gold.
Oh, yeah, let's hear it.
Here's a guy who I absolutely rooted for in that moment, beating up those guys. Yeah. But at the same time, you do something to Mother Nyssen, then I just can't endorse that, man.
Well, you're right. Kidnapping them and maybe mispronouncing Grun.
Oh, who cares about Helga? I'm just talking about Mother Nyssen. You don't no. An old woman. You could break her hip.
But Abe, this is so funny. His story, I don't think this is his story in the book. I haven't read the 3rd book, but it really feels like his story this season was he lost touch with his roots. Mm-hmm. He's back in with suddenly being around his family again. He's still, I want the diamond. I want my family diamond. But then it's Shabbos, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, is taking place this night, and Grun pulls him into his family, and he sees a family living happily. He lies. He can't tell them he's a mobster. What do you do? I work. What's on the table? Oh, I make chewing gum. I work with a chewing gum company. And so it really feels like his story is reconnecting with his roots and supporting his community. Now, nobody can see the history that's coming for the Jewish community. Maybe they could by so many evil anti-Semitic things happening, but I think Abe's going to turn around.
Yeah.
What do you think's going to happen with the blue Rothschild diamond that Nissen's assistant Wegener has?
Yeah, so Wegner's got it, right? And he was going to in the Shabbos episode.
Yeah, he was going to trade it.
He was going to trade it
for Mother Nyssen. Would he say, I want Helga too, or he would say, no, just Mother Nyssen?
He'd say, leave Helga in the boat. That's
right,
fine.
He would, yeah.
Yeah, you got to have Mother Nyssen back. But Abe was getting so involved with his family thing. He saw him outside. He just kind of let him go. It seemed like he was going to go. And his uncle said, no, you got to stick around for this, which I'm really glad they did, because that was such a beautiful song.
That was
just amazing. That performance is also on the official season soundtrack. So be sure to check that out. It's on the volume 3.
Incredible. Now, a couple more stories we want to touch on before we play some more games and get to your musical analysis, Matt. What do we want to say about Scarface Wendt? He's in a relationship with Malou, yet he also is drawn to sexual relationship with men. There's certainly nothing wrong with being bi. We don't want to do this at all. But of course, he's completely evil. Forget his sexuality. This is an evil guy. And Malou and this now Dr. Volker are plotting to kill him. I mean, and he's already screwed over Katelbach, right? Didn't he burn the film that could have proved Katelbach's innocent and was correct?
Yeah.
So do we root for him to get killed? I guess I've always kind of rooted for him to get killed. I hate Wendt. What do you think?
Well, the whole thing with Arndt is the thing that kind of threw me, because I'm not certain that Arndt is of age. That him or Morris is. And that's the point where I was kind of like, okay, you've gone too far for me, Wendt. So I'm ready for him to go, if possible.
All right. Well, do you want Malou and Dr. Volker to kill him? I guess we all do. He's terrible.
Well,
he's the worst.
I'd rather it be somebody else.
Okay.
I kind of like Malou, but I don't want to think of her as a killer. If she wants to be a communist spy, I'm cool with that. If she wants to, if she's doing all of this to be with Wendt just kind of undercover for her other comrade, whose name escapes me right now, then I'm cool with that too. But I don't like to think of her as being that much of a murderer. Although, because of everything that Volker is saying about being, she seems to be the one that really has the hang up about him dying. I would imagine that she's probably going to be the one that actually takes the shot.
I hope so. Yeah. And I hope she succeeds. This guy, to hell with him.
Yeah, he can go for all I care. I'm ready for him to go.
Any final things you want to say about maybe Katelbach's story and Miss Elizabeth doing, like Mission Impossible type scams on an old suitor to get the documents? What do you think about this? This is crazy.
It was an Oceans or Across the Oceans 5 kind of thing, man. It was perfect. It was just, that was such a great scam. Nice tension, a great score underneath it all, and just really built things up. Charlotte has to be the fastest 2-finger typist I've ever seen in my life. And just the whole timing of it all. It was brilliant. I love that. And that's one of the longest openings before the credits come on, I think they've had in the whole series.
At first I thought, is this them just saying what they plan to do, and then we're going to see them, do it and fail or do it a different way? But it was so long, I realized, oh, this is it. Well, we're going. Let's go.
Yeah, that was great. It just it was done exactly like Ocean's 11 stuff is done.
It sure was.
They talk about it, and then you see it happening. It was perfect. It was great. I loved it.
Okay, so Matt, something you also have hinted at you loved in these episodes, it's your musical analysis. What are you going to talk about this week?
Well, we talked a little bit about Abe Gold earlier, and the Blue Rothschild. Der Blau Rothschild, I believe, is the German pronunciation. Although, at Musical Concepts, don't at Bubba, because my German's bad. But we're going to talk about a theme that is used for them, and you'll find it in several cuts on the official soundtrack as well, because there's so many different versions of it throughout the episodes that we've seen so far. And they do have some of those different versions on the soundtrack. But I just wanted to break that theme down because I just love the cultural richness that it presents.
Let's talk about a theme that is associated with Abe Gold and with the Blue Rothschild itself. You can find it on the Volume 3 of the official soundtrack under the title Der Blaue Rothschild. Literal translation, the Blue Rothschild. And you'll hear it under many scenes, especially in this stretch of episodes, underneath when we see gold, Goldstein, and when we see any allusion to the diamond itself, which is, of course, mostly with gold, sometimes with Nyssen. It sounds like this. Now, one of the things that's really cool about it is the timbres that are used. But first, I want to point out how in my left hand on the piano, I had to do kind of polyrhythms between my pinky and my thumb. It's like the bass line goes on beats of 3 for the most part, and the opposing rhythm goes on the other 2 beats, kind of fills them up. They do cross at one point, and the piece is actually in the meter of 4/4, meaning that there's 4 counts, and that's what the melody follows. But because you have these kind of groups of 3s until you get to the end and everything recycles again, it creates an additional kind of tension. The other thing is every 4th chord, like it goes from G to B flat to F and then up to A, on those A chords, while the melody is playing a flat 6, and you don't need to know these terms, but the melody emphasizes E flats while the harmony emphasizes E natural. So it's being derived from 2 different kinds of scales, and it gives it a complexity and a depth that really adds to the theme and helps to kind of demonstrate the deep culture that is the Jewish culture, as well as the deep history that these families have with this particular jewel. Another interesting thing is, of course, the timbres, because sometimes you'll hear the clarinet playing the melody, sometimes you'll hear a violin playing the melody, sometimes you'll hear both of them playing it together, sometimes you'll hear a stringed instrument playing the melody, like a harp, a plucked string kind of sound. It's really cool, and the counter rhythms, and sometimes even the bass line, is done with a kalimba or xylophone type of instrument as well. And all of these timbres make everything seem very culturally rich, which is something that I really enjoy about Klimek and Tickworks stuff, especially for this particular season. And that's all we've got for music this time around.
Okay, Matt. Now it's time, before we get to some listener feedback, we got to do the things we do on every Babylon Berlin Babble podcast. It's our Nyssen of the week. This is somebody who, either on the show or in real life, really pulls a Nyssen, goes Nyssen crazy, does things that you don't expect, acts very bizarre. Do you have a Nyssen of the week?
Well, my Nyssen of the week can only be Nyssen, because how can you let go of those troubles so easily just because Anno Schmidt snaps his fingers or something? Come on. I mean, only a Nyssen would fall for that. So my Nyssen of the week is, in fact, Nyssen.
My Nyssen of the week, now everybody listening in the future, you're going to have to understand we're doing this on one of the last July weeks of 2024. My Nyssen of the week is Ohio Senator J.D. Vance. Ooh. Just like Nyssen quit caring what people thought, J.D. Vance has quit caring what people thought too. Women without children. Wait, Jennifer Aniston, famous celebrity Jennifer Aniston, loved all around the world, is upset about that I said people without children are pointless. Well, guess what? Jennifer Aniston is the worst. When you've lost the friends.
I'll give you even another parallel for that, Bubba.
Let's hear it, yeah.
Think of Fox News and how much they hated Vance at the beginning, and now all of a sudden they're buddies. Just like that. When we first met Nyssen, we were kind of iffy about him. We didn't know what we liked about him.
So true.
And now
so true.
we are 100% behind him.
So true. Oh my goodness. JD Vance, tip of the beard to you. You've got the beard. The Armenian lost his. Or should we call him some of the other names that he's gone by in his life? He changed his name so many times that he has two things that the D in JD stood for. Went by a different last name for a shortened amount of time. He keeps reinventing himself, just like Nyssen keeps inventing himself. Way to go, Ohio Senator JD Vance.
Right.
Our sweet Scheisse moment is something that when you're watching Babylon Berlin, you see it and you go, sweet Scheisse. So I'll go first on this one, Matt. And you know that all our listeners, many of our female listeners get sick that I'm always Charlotte's so cute. She's so beautiful. I'm in love. She's the best. Oh, she's wonderful. And how we get jealous of Rath. And we're like, don't go with Rath. The actor in real life was a anti-vax nut job. All these things.
Right.
But seeing Charlotte happy and seeing that smile, she suffers so much in every season. At times I get upset with the show for making Charlotte suffer so much. But even if it's with evil Rath, seeing Charlotte's sweet smile gave me the sweet Scheisse moment for this week. How about you?
What is your I just have to disagree with that, Bubba. There were too many foot shots in all of those scenes, and it just it totally turned me off. Maybe that's why I would have said sweet Scheisse, except not in a good way. My sweet Scheisse moment is probably the Yodeler. I mean, he just kept going, and it was so perfectly done. I just went, sweet Scheisse, this is the music I came for. That's the sweet Scheisse moment for me, is the Yodeler.
Listeners, we want to hear from you. Do you have a Nyssen of the week? Do you have a sweet Scheisse moment? Certainly seeing poor Red Hugo with all those nails in him, that was a bit of a sweet Scheisse moment too. Hey, we always want to hear from you. If you're on YouTube, go down in the comments, type up what you thought on all our silly discussions and these great episodes, or hit us up on social media, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, @PPHQ. Our first bit of feedback was just feedback about our podcast. We got two comments, one from somebody by, I hope I pronounced this right, Spalali, who just said, hey, I love your lighthearted jokes that are so very witty. Oh, thank you for saying that.
Yeah, thank you. And Ted_Red says, enjoyable discussions, thanks.
Oh, thank you so much. We love all sorts of comments. Maybe those are the best of them all. We got this comment from Aaron Blaylock, who said, Lotta is all about that life. Weimar, she's living the Weimar lifestyle, Matt. Yeah. Aaron also wrote, I was wondering, since we had to wait here in the United States so long for season 4, is it possible season 5 is being produced during the time we were waiting for season 4 and that we'll get it sooner? Sadly, Aaron, the truth is that this year, as we're currently, once again, in July of 2024, they don't intend to start shooting season 5 and the final season of Babylon Berlin until the fall and November and December months of 2024. So we are going to probably be still waiting for at least a year before we see season 5.
Maybe, though, the one good thing is that, at least for viewers in the United States, because now there is a contract in place with megahertz and what have you, that we won't have to wait the long time between its release in Germany and its release elsewhere in the world.
Exactly right.
Yeah, so hopefully we won't be waiting another 3 years, because who knows if I'll even be here by then.
And our final bit of feedback is somebody who's given us feedback in the past. This is so wonderful. I can never pronounce it. I don't know if it's Buggy or Boogie. How would you think Buggy pronounces his name? It's Buggi, Matt. Well, how would you think he pronounces that?
I'm going to go with Boogie.
Okay. We love to boogie. Boogie said, hey, I've kept you Babylon Berlin podcast people for 4 years in my subscriptions just for this podcast. Oh, well, thank you.
Yes.
He said, he's tough on season 4, Matt. What's he say?
Yeah, he says this season is unfortunately messy, has a lot of weird subplots, and is noticeably worse than the previous seasons. Yeah, well, I think that's kind of the impression that I've gotten from a lot of people who have watched this particular season. I'm still hopeful, and maybe I don't know if Boogie has seen the entirety of the season or not. If they're watching from the United States, I don't suppose they have, because we haven't had the final 2 episodes released yet. But I'm still hoping that these final 4 episodes will really bring. I worry that they might not be able to resolve everything, and certainly not within the same type of storyline. But as long as we get some resolutions for each of these things that they've planted, or some kind of point towards where you can see a resolution on the horizon, then I'll be okay with this season, I think.
I'm trying to guess, Boogie. Write back and tell us what you considered the messy parts, the weird subplots, and the noticeably worse ones. Because even though I really liked season 3, I thought the serial killer on the movie set line, I thought that was a very messy storyline and wasn't as fascinating as, the undercover stuff Rath was doing and to catch Fritz and Otto and the Greta storyline and all that. So I kind of think that was rough. And so far, what's messy about this season is there's just so much. Like I said, we left SA leader Stennes in prison for a real long time, and it felt like we forgot about him, and then suddenly he's back. Dr. Volker wasn't in the first 5 episodes. Suddenly she's here. So the only messy thing I'd say is it's by aiming so wide and trying to cover so much, it feels a bit messy that way. But as I said in my 8.5 review of these 4 episodes, they always had moments where it was like, oh my God, like they always had moments like, oh, wow, that I'm back in. And like Matt, I really hope these final 4 episodes knock it out of the park.
As long, Bubba, I believe I'll rate this season higher than season 3, as long as this season doesn't end in an art film. And then I'll be cool.
What if Esther's like, I got to return to my first love film?
Well, as long as we don't have to watch it.
Good point. Good point. Okay. For everybody here on Babylon Berlin Babble and the Double P Podcast Network, my name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM, at Fit and Trim on social media.
And I'm Matt, and you can find me at Musical Concepts, all one word strung together, on the site formerly known as Twitter, at Musical Concepts.
And you'll hear us next time on Babylon
Berlin
Babble.
Babble, 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 babble.
I think Catfish would have loved the King of Yodel. Excuse me, give him his correct title.
I can only imagine that,
because he looks just like Catfish. No.
Well, I can only imagine that that he would have loved it, because it has given him an opportunity to sing the whole podcast.
Oh yeah, sure would.